Hey guys, let's read some book together. So we have reached chapter 3 in Hetty Feather. Last time we've heard that Hetty have a new friend called Polly, and in chapter 3 it's about Polly and Hetty being friends together. And in winter they both got ill. So let's see how it went. Chapter 3. Polly and I even got ill together that winter. I'm not sure which of us started sniffing or sneezing first, but within a day we both had red and runny nose and hacking coughs. Matron Pigface Peters gave us a rag each to wipe our nose, but they were made of harsh, hard cloth and rub us raw. Our heads were aching and our arms and legs hurt. All we wanted to do was lie down, but we were forced up into our everyday routine. It was especially cold, and we stood shivering at playtime, barely able to stand. Run around, children. You need plenty of fresh air to blow those horrid coats away. Don't pull those long faces at me, said Matron Pigface. But we're so cold, Matron. Mayn't we stay indoors just this once? I sniffed. Cold? Of course you're cold, if you loll around like that. Do some skipping. Take some exercise, you lazy little girls. And stop that shivering. You've got your good thick coats. We had our coats, but we had no woolen scarves or mitten. We had no underwear, so the icy wind blew straight up our skirts. We staggered miserably up and down, our faces gray, snot running freezily by bedtime. We were both wheezing and dizzy with fever. I could not croak out a story for everyone. I could barely breathe. I lay there, head throbbing, while my head seemed to rise up and down, voyaging violently sick all over my pillow and coverlet. I crouched, shivering and sniffing, desperate to know what to do. I was sure I'll be punished for making such a terrible stinking mess. I had to try to clear it up, but I didn't know how. Oh, Hetty Heather, have you been sick? Shayla called. I can smell it from here. How disgusting you are. She couldn't help it, said Polly. I feel sick too. Oh no, she vomited as well. Stop it, you both disgusting, said Shayla. Some of the other girls woke up and groaned and complained. Shh, I hear footsteps. It's Matron, Monica hissed. I started crying then, unable to lie down in my bed, terrified I might be whipped for being out of it. But it wasn't the dreaded Matron Pigface Peters. Lovely Nurse Weenie was on night duty. She came in with her lamp. Oh dear, who's been sick? She said. Is it you, Hetty? And poor Polly, too. She came up to me and felt my forehead. You have a fever, dear. You need proper nursing. And you too, Polly. Come along with me, girls. She ushered us out of the dormitory and down the corridor, into a room we've never been in before, like a small dormitory with 12 beds. This is the infirmary, girls. Let's strip off those spoiled nightgowns and get you washed and clean again, poor lambs. She was so gentle with us that we both started crying, unused to such tenderness. When we were in our clean nightgowns, we were tucked into bed in the infirmary with new softer rags to blow our nose, and bows beside us in case we were sick again. There now, try to get some sleep. I'll go and check the other girls and strip your soiled beds. Don't cry so. You'll feel better soon. We're not going to be punished, I said. Goodness, Hetty, you're both ill with the influenza. Of course you're not going to be punished. Nurse Weenie sounded shocked. Dear goodness, what must you think of us? "I think you're lovely, Nurse Winterson," I said. She was truly angelic to both of us. She helped us both when we were sick again. She lifted us onto the chamber pot. We wound wet towels round us to bring down our fever. She gave us sips of sugared water. She read us aloud to us when we were restless. She clapped our hands when the doctor came to examine us. By this time, the infirmary was full of sneezing sick girls, with further beds lining the corridor. Half the hospital has gone down with its rich, virulent influenza, he said as he listened to Polly's chest. However, you're a sturdy child with excellent lungs. You'll be running around in a daze or so, as right as ninepence. He looked graver when he undid my nightgown to listen my chest. He bent closer till his pomaded hair was right under my nostril. He kept prodding me with the cold end of his stethoscope, shaking his head. "This child is nowhere near as robust," he declared, severely undernourished. "She has a sparrow's bone, no meat on them at all. She needs feeding up." "I eat the same as Polly, sir," I said, but he took no notice. "Give her a black beer in the mornings, and full cream milk, and plenty of porridge, or you'll lose her," he said bluntly. I shivered with excitement and as much as fear, because I could not help delighting in the fact that I was the child so sorely ill. I hated it when Polly was sent back to the dormitory the next day, almost fully recovered, formed a friendship with another girl in my absence, but I could not help basking in the attention of dear Nurse Winnie at nights. Mercifully, Matron Pigface Peters went down with the influenza herself and kept to her room. Several of the nurses were also ill, so during the day we were looked after by anyone available. Sometimes it was a big girl. One glorious day, Ida came with a specially ordered bowl of creamy porridge for me. She sat beside my bed and insisted on feeding me, spooning porridge into my mouth as if I was a little baby. I was still feeling sick and kept shaking my head, but Ida tapped my mouth gently with a spoon, coaxing me. "There's a good girl, Hetty. Another few spoonfuls just for me, eh? And look what I've got you here. A little slab of my own homemade toffee. You may suck on a square when you finish your porridge." I cried a little then. "Don't cry, dearie. Does your chest hurt badly? Perhaps you need a piece of flannel at your throat." No, it's just you're being so kind to me. It's almost as if I was at home." I wept. "I miss Jem so much. And Mother." "What was your foster mother like, Hetty?" Ida asked. "She was just Mother. Was she kind to you?" "She was very kind, though she paddled me when I was a bad girl. I'm sure she could never be truly bad. She lifted me up the pillow to drink my milk. She had her arms round my shoulder, and I leaned against her gratefully. I decided I was in no hurry to get better when Ida and Nurse Winnie were making such a fuss of me, especially when Nurse Winnie smuggled me a reassuring note from Polly. "Dear Hetty, I do hope you're not too ill. I miss you so dreadfully. It's horrid without you. From your very loving friend, Polly." "Dear Polly," I replied, "it is enormously horrid not being with you, but I'm trying hard to bear it. I will get better soon, I promise. Nurse Winnie is my friend, and Ida is my friend too, but you are my most very special friend in all the world, and I'm very affectionately, your Hetty." I was still not very strong, and I had to labor long, hard over my letter. I asked Ida how to spell the great big words, like enormously and affectionately, but she blushed and looked wretched. "I'm not very good at writing, Hetty. I can't rightly say," She said, "Well, never mind. I'll ask Nurse Winterson," I said, sad that I'd embarrassed her. "I never had much schooling, see," Ida said. She looked at me earnestly. "That's a good thing about the hospital. You girls get a proper education. You're brought up almost like young ladies." "Yes, but we're not young ladies. We have to be servants," I said, wrinkling my nose. "I don't want to be a servant." Then it was my turn to blush because I realized I'd been tactless. "I'm sorry, Ida," I said, taking her hand. There are worse positions in life," she said flatly, "and you're very bright, Hetty. Perhaps you'll get a position as a lady's maid and wear a fine uniform and never have to do any hard work. Should you like that?" I considered. Perhaps I should like it if she was a very kind lady and let me dress up in her silks and velvets and give me cake at tea time, I said. Ida laughed. "You have wheedling ways, but I doubt any lady will let you do that. Then I won't be a servant at all. I shall run away to the circus." "Oh, yes," said Ida. "And what will you be there? A performing monkey?" "I shall be a fine lady on a white horse," I declared. "With rings on your fingers and bells on your toes?" said Ida, not taking me seriously. "No, I shall join my real mother, Madame Adeline, and she will give me a costume of pink spangles, and we will ride our horses together in the circus ring," I said. "Whatever makes you fancy your mother is a circus lady," said Ida. "Oh, I'm absolutely certain of it," I said. "Madame Adeline told me herself, more or less, and when I am big enough, I shall go and find her. Just you wait and see." "Well, you're not big enough yet, Hetty. You're still the smallest girl in the whole hospital. You must eat up all the milk puddings. I'll bring you every last morsel, and then you'll get better." I did get better, though I think it was due to the love and attention of Ida and Nurse Winnie. Not their milk puddings and medicine, but one of our sick girls, Sarah Barnett's, grew worse. The nurses wrapped her in soaking sheets, but she was still burning hot when I touched her, and she could barely sip her sugared water. She was so weak they had to lift her onto a chamber pot like a baby, and all the time, morning, evening, all through the night, she coughed and coughed. I slipped out of bed and went to stand beside her, shivering. "Poor Sarah," I whispered. "Is your throat very sore?" "Yes," she mumbled. "Yes, it hurts. Shall I get nurse?" "No, no. I want—" "Who?" "I want my mother," Sarah sobbed. I told Nurse Winnie, and she looked stricken. "Poor lab. I wish she could see her foster mother, but it's strictly against the rules. But she's so ill." "I know, Hetty, I know," she said wearily, and she covered her face with her hands. "Nurse Winterson, is Sarah dying?" I whispered. "I hope not, but she's very, very poorly," said Nurse Sweeney. Sarah started crying again that night, calling for her mother. She wouldn't quieten, no matter how Nurse Winnie tried to soothe her. I got out of bed and crept nearer. I had a fanciful idea that I could picture Sarah's mother for her, tell her that she was coming very soon, that she loved her little daughter. But Nurse Winnie took hold of me and forced me back to bed. "I know you mean well, Hetty, but you must not get too near poor Sarah, especially while she is coughing so. You must not risk reinfecting yourself. You're still quite a sick girl. Now go back to sleep. There's a good child." I tried to do as I was told, pulling my blanket high over my head to cut down the sound of Sarah. When I woke up in the morning, the room was strangely quiet. I sat up. Sarah's bed was empty, her sheets pulled up, her mattress bare. "Where's Sarah? Is she in the washroom?" I called anxiously. "No, Hetty." Nurse Winnie came over to me, her face very white. purple shadows under her eyes. No, Hetty, Sarah's gone to heaven. She's with the angels now. I sat still, stunned. I'd asked if Sarah was dying, but I hadn't really meant it. Sarah was such a real girl, with her cough and her runny nose, and a tendency not to reach the privy in time. Yet now she was an angel in a long white dress, with wings sprouting out of her small shoulder blades. I was accomplished at picturing, but it was very hard imagining Sarah lolling on heavenly clouds, a halo over her lank brown hair. Don't be sad, Hetty. Sarah's happy now, and her poor cough is better, said Nurse Winterson, but she didn't sound at all sure. I laid down again, my heart beating fast. They said I was getting better, but might I die too? A new nurse came to take over from Nurse Weenie, a little sharp-faced woman I've not seen before. It seemed she usually worked in the boys' wing, but was now working in a shift with us because 3 of the nurses were ill themselves. Nurse Winterson took her the news about Sarah. She was whispering, but I could still hear her. Let's hope she is the only one we lose, said Nurse Weenie. One of our boys is falling fast, said the nurse, a sad little lad, much troubled, calling for his mother and his fathers and all his brothers and his sisters. That's maybe my brother. I must go to him, I said, getting out of bed. No, Hetty, don't fret. It won't be your brother, said Nurse Weenie. But the sharp-faced nurse seemed taken aback. He has a sister, Hetty, she said. I have to see him. He's calling for me. I have to see him before he goes to the angels like Sarah. I said frantically. Shh, child, you're not allowed, said the sharp-faced nurse. I will allow it, said Nurse Weenie. She grabbed my blanket around me and lifted me in her arms. She must have been exhausted after a long traumatic night, but luckily I was very light. You can't take her, said the other nurse. Yes, I can, said Nurse Weenie. She carried me out of the infirmary, along the corridor, all the way to the boys' wing. Oh, Nurse Winterson, I love you dearly. Thank you so much. I need to see my brother Gideon so badly, I said. I know you do, Hetty. I will make sure you see him. She pushed open a door with her hip, and we entered a room with the familiar smell of carbolic and sickness. There were boys in the bed, sniffing and coughing, and a nurse bending over to a boy at the end, looking grave. She was startled at the sight of us. Don't be alarmed. I have brought Hetty to see her brother, said Nurse Winnie. Gideon, oh Gideon, I'm here, I cried, but it wasn't Gideon lying in bed. Oh goodness, it's Sal, but is Gideon all right? I begged the nurse. My brother Gideon, he's very frail with a weak chest. Where's he? Oh please, he hasn't died and gone to join the angels. Shh, child, keep your voice down. Sal is very sick, but Gideon is perfectly healthy. He has not caught the influenza, said the nurse. You promise that's true? I said, not certain I could trust her. Hetty, said Nurse Weenie. Now, dear, do you have some words of comfort for your brother Sal? He was the wrong brother. I really wanted to rush out of the infirmary and find Gideon so I could see for myself that he was truly well, but I knew that in these circumstances this would not be looked out favorably. So I took a deep breath and stared down at Sal. He was lying wretchedly in bed, his curls damp with sweat, his cheeks flushed with fevers. Hello, Sal, I said softly. It's me, Hetty. I'm not sure he knows you, child. He's very fevered, said the nurse, but Sal's brown eyes were open, staring straight at me. He knew me all right. He heard me burble about Gideon. He knew I've never been begged to come and visit him. I suddenly felt terrible. Oh, Sal, I said, wishing I could cry to look truly sorry. You look so ill. I've been ill too, but not as much as you. It must hurt so much. Here, let me hold your hand. I tried to take it, but he pulled away from me. I know you don't like me, but never mind because I liked you. I said. I was lying now, but it seemed only right and fair. You are my dear brother, and I wish I could comfort you. I wish Mother could come. Sal's eyes filled with tears. I tried desperately. Hard to think what it must be like to be him. I think Mother loved you the best, I whispered, bending down beside him. I started stroking his damp hair. This time, he didn't try to push me away. Yes, you were her special baby, her little lamb. But then Gideon and I came along and she has to attend to us. You got pushed out of the way. No wonder you did not like us. But Mother still loved you best. When she took you to the hospital, she was so sad she could barely speak for days after. She just mopped in a corner, missing her special boy. Hetty, try to cheer your little brother, said Nurse Winterson. But Sal was smiling a little, and I knew my words were cheering him immensely. I stayed crouched by his side, whispering to him about Mother, and he stopped tossing restlessly and curled closer. His hand was near mine, but this time, when I took it, he clasped me back. His eyelids started drooping. When they closed, I stared uneasily, fearful that he might be dead, but I could hear his labored breath and the wheezing of his chest. Come, Hetty, he is sleeping now. I must take you back, said Nurse Weenie. I staggered to my feet, slumping over something on the floor. It was Sal's crunch. He's not been needing that anymore, said the sharp-faced nurse, tiding into a cupboard. I burst out crying again. It was almost as if she would take in Sal himself and stow him in the cupboard. I cried all the way back to the girls' wing, though Nurse Weenie did her best to console me. She was sorry for me, and doubtless frightened less than any other nurse as why I was crying so. I tried to stop, because I didn't want to get her into trouble, but I felt too sad. For all I prided myself on my picturing skill, I've never before imagined what it was like to be Sal. I had pitied myself often enough, and fretted about dear Gideon, but I've never cared a jot for Sal. I resolved to be a true sister to him, if by some miracle be made a full recovery. I would disguise myself in breeches again, and slip along to the boys' wing. On a regular basis, I'd make a great fuss of both my brother. I would wheedle sweets out of Sunday visitor and hide them away from the thieving big girls. I'll keep everyone for Sal and Gideon, and take pleasure in seeing them stock them. They'll give me sticky embraces, telling me I was their dear sister Hetty. But the next morning, I heard the boys' nurse whispering to Nurse Weenie. I heard Sal's name, and I knew he was dead. I started crying anew. Oh, Hetty, you have such sharp ears. Your poor lamb, I'm so sorry. Still, at least you were able to say goodbye to him, said Nurse Weenie. I can't bear it if he's really dead, I sobbed. I haven't had time to make him like me. Of course he liked you, Hetty. You were a lovely sister to him. You must try not to grieve so. He will be happy now in heaven. He will be there with our dear Sarah. I tried to imagine Sal and Sarah playing together in white angel nightgowns. I didn't think Sal would care for Sarah. Her nose would run and she would start wailing. He would provoke her and prod her with his crunch. Nurse Winterson, will Sal be lame in heaven? No, that is the joyous thing. God will cure him. Sal will be able to run around on 2 strong legs. Isn't that wonderful? Why couldn't God cure him here? I said. Oh, Hetty, you're such a child for questions even when you're ill, said Nurse Winterson, sighing hard. They let me out of the infirmary the next day. Polly greeted me with a great hug. I thought you might die, but that I couldn't bear it, she said fervently. I think I nearly died. Sarah did, and my brother Sal. Would you go to their funerals? Polly asked in awe. I rather hoped I would go. I've never been to a funeral, but it seemed to be a very good, grand, and somber occasion. Anything was better than the monotony of the hospital routine. I think they must have had funerals, but I wasn't invited. We sang a special hymn in a chapel on Sunday, and that was the last time their names were ever mentioned. So poor Sal and poor Sarah, they both died with influenza. And let's see what chapter 14 is all about. It's about Christmas on chapter 14. Let's see. Bye.